Welcome everyone to Product Week, an event designed to help you level up your PM skills and career. This event is powered up by ADPList, the biggest peer-to-peer learning platform in the world. If you want to learn, get mentored from the best tech talents in the world, discuss ideas and network, ADPList is the perfect match for you. We are 100% free. In this event, throughout Product Week, we are giving away an Apple Watch, kindly sponsored by Product Academy. All you have to do is share what you've learned from our sessions on LinkedIn and Twitter, tag the speakers and ADPList. Details will be shared in the chat box. Now, for us to run this session smoothly, here are a few housekeeping rules. Please keep your cameras on at all times. Please use your real name on Zoom and Slido. Presentation, the panel will be 30 minutes and will be quickly followed by a 15-minute Q&A. For the Q&A, we are using Slido. To manage questions, scan the QR code behind me, or you can click in the link in the chat. So you can be redirected to Slido and ask all of your burning questions. Please remember to send questions with your name because anonymous questions will not be considered. You can also upvote each other's questions on Slido for our speakers to respond. The session will be recorded and we will share the recording as soon as possible. Now, let's get to it. Let me introduce you to our panelists. First, I would like to introduce Yashi. Please correct me if I mispronounce that.
Hello.
Yashi is product manager at Clear. Then we have Kieran. Measurement at Meta. We have Sefunmi, co-founder at Co.Lab, and Tanai, senior product manager at WePay. And now I would like to pass it over to Kieran, who will be our moderator for this panel. Take it away, everybody.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining. So I'm the moderator. So let's get started. So I'll just do a quick introduction about myself. I've been a product manager, actually an accidental product manager. I've been a startup founder before in Myanmar. And once I exited the startup, I was thinking of like, what the hell do I do with my life? Like, I was thinking, do I, relearn stuff or do I think of the next big idea there? And that was when I went back to Singapore and I applied for everything, but found out that something close to my heart was being a product manager because I love building things. Ever since then, I've never looked back at being a product manager. And the road, it's tough. It's not very easy at what it's glamorous and stuff. It's very stressful, but it's very rewarding and very fun. And I would love to share the best product I've seen and why. And I also pass it to a few of my panelists on the round. So my best product I've seen is Google search. It's simple. It's very clear, UI, UX, everything is neat. The only thing that you have to do is to type anything you want into a search bar. People know how to do it, and there's a branding that comes with it. Like if my colleagues ask me, do you know of this? I would just say Google it. So Google it kind of becomes like a branding that people think about. And it's very easy for Google product managers to build things on top of the search bar. We have maps, we can search by image, we can do delivery, you can call, direction, everything's adds up. So to me, Google search is one of the best products. We'll go on to the detail later, but I will just pass it on to Tanel to do a bit of introduction and just to tell us his best product he has seen.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kieran, for that introduction. And I completely agree with you on the job description of being a product manager. Completely resonate with that. So hi, everyone. My name is Tanek. So I moved to the United States in January of 2020. I did my master's in product management from Carnegie Mellon University. Right now, I am a PM at WePay. I started as an API and a developer experience PM. Currently, I lead the pricing and billing infrastructure at WePay. My job is to ensure that our customers and VPay keeps making money. And then overall, my job search process as a product manager was extremely tough and very, very taxing. And it took me almost 3 months after graduation to land my first product role. And I'm sure anyone who has cracked their first product role, the experience would have been pretty similar. Because of my hardships, I was inspired to start my own newsletter to help aspiring product managers be how to break into product management and how to be a better product manager. So I run my own Substack newsletter where I talk about different things on how to be a first-time product manager and how to crack these elusive roles, if I may. Right. So that's about me. And in terms of my favorite product, I would say Strava is my favorite product. I think that is one of the products that I use every day. Strava has honestly pushed me to become a better athlete. I ran my first half marathon inspired by Strava because there were some of the people that I was following on Strava where I saw that, oh my God, these guys are running half marathons. If my friends, people who I know so closely can run half marathons, why can I not do that? So I think it has inspired me to go on my fitness journey. It's probably the first thing that I look at in the morning, even though there are just 15 followers and I just follow 15 people, but it's the best thing that I look at in the morning. It's the right amount of social media. It's addictive, yet it does not take up a lot of time because you just go through all the updates of a day and you're done. I think in terms of like certain features that I really love is one is its integration with the variable where the barrier to entry is really low. I use an Apple Watch, so you can just directly sync all your activities and you're done. And finally, I think one last key thing that I really love about Strava is the stats summary and your logs feature. Like you can constantly track how much you're moving forward on your fitness journey, what your goals are, and then align yourself with that. So I think overall Strava has really pushed me to stay fit and then become fit. So yeah, that's me.
That's nice. I'll have like follow-up questions after everyone, introduced. So, but now I will just pass it to Sefunmi.
Yeah, thank you, Kieran. And also, yeah, great products, both all around. So nice to meet you. My name is Sefunmi. I'm one of the co-founders of Co.Lab. My journey into product management was actually very interesting because it's very cyclical. I wanted to become a product manager, didn't have any idea what to do, but I felt like the best thing for me was try to build a product, even though I didn't know how to code, I didn't know how to design. And I really wanted to break into the tech industry because I was blown away about the amazing things that folks were doing in Silicon Valley. I really wanted to be in the tech industry. While I was in college or university, I studied something completely different. I didn't have a CS background or computer engineering background, but I really wanted to break into this industry. So over one summer, I got a couple of friends together, some of my friends who were developers and designers. I've decided to build a productivity tool. So nothing super crazy, but throughout the process, I really got to learn about, what it means to work with a cross-functional team, what the engineers need, what the designers need, how to talk to customers, how to solve the right problems. And even though after months of product development and releasing an iOS app and an Android app on the App Store, even though that didn't go well, like my app didn't blow up, I was able to take that experience, put that on my resume and apply for jobs, which is when I got my first product management role at Microsoft. I then went on to Apple as well in a product management or in a product role. And it's very interesting because like I started my journey as like a founder or like someone working on a side project, then going into big tech, working at startups, and now I'm like back on the entrepreneurial journey with Co.Lab. And essentially what Co.Lab we do is like we give aspiring product managers the experience that they need to succeed in the industry. And we do that by allowing you build products and putting you in the driver's seat to become a product manager. Because one of the things that we believe in our philosophy is like, product management is very similar to what Kieran and Tane said. It's very interesting, very random, very different from company to company. You can read as much as possible. A lot of the blogs and the frameworks, they're very helpful, but in reality, like you're going to be thrown a lot of different problems that you can only solve when you're actually in there. So we really want to put you all in the driver's seat and understand what it means like to be a product manager, have arguments with your, of course, healthy arguments with your team, but be productive and understand how you can move forward and actually solve problems. So that is sort of what I'm dedicating my life to now, to help aspiring product managers, product designers, and software developers to break into the tech industry and also succeed. That being said, when I think about my favorite product, I think about AirPods, the Apple AirPods, for several reasons. Number one, first of all, they're magical. If you haven't tried them before, I encourage you to try them. And it serves as a product that I think all product managers should study very closely. Because if you think about it, Apple always included headphones in their products up until 2020, 4 years after the AirPods were developed. And you already had a product that was solving a user problem by, I can listen to music with my earphones and not have to bother anyone. But Apple was very strategic about, what is the goal for this product? How can we observe people and understand that the earphones that people are using right now is not sufficient for them because they're connected with a wire, and that limits you. So if you like to run, if you're a Strava user, if you like to run and do all those things, that it's going to limit your movement. If you like to pace around when you're having phone calls, it's going to limit your movement. If you're charging your phone and you want to have a call, it's also going to limit your movement. So being able to observe that human behavior and really push forward to innovation, I think that's one of the reasons why it serves as one of my favorite products, because it's something that is very interesting to study. Not also to mention the business impact, and I know we'll get to that in a second, but if you think about AirPods revenue over the past couple of years, AirPods revenue is more than Uber's, more than Spotify's, more than Snapchat, and that's because Apple pushed themselves to innovate, and now this product is like absolutely crushing it in the market. So definitely more on that, but I would say that's sort of my favorite product because it takes lots of creativity and insight to be able to come up with something like this and actually have it succeed the way it has.
I 100% agree with Sefunmi. It's that's probably my favorite hardware product, I would say. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, that's definitely interesting. So far, when you think of product, normally when you come into this talk, you think about software product, but Sefunmi, he really brought out this hardware as a product. It's really interesting. If you look at AirPods, that's highest quality. If you look at hair dryers, fan, we think of Dyson with innovative technology. That's another part of being a product. Product doesn't limit you to just software. It also can be hardware. The same things apply, just that for hardware, you just need a bit more technical knowledge, maybe more engineering based, but being a product manager for either software or hardware is still probably is the same. So last but not least, we just move on to Yashi to share with us her background and her favorite product.
Hi everybody, hope I'm audible properly. So my name is Yashi, and I've been working as a product manager from past close to 5 years also. So I started my journey as a developer, never a developer, always somebody from management with the management heart. So I always wanted to do something apart from development. Okay, so I tried to explore stuff, I tried marketing. When I was working in my first organization, it was Times Internet. Most of the Indian folks might know. So I used to sit with a lot of people, from different stakeholders, and try to see what they do, how they grow the product, what is my audience, what are we building actually. As a developer, you are very limited to just working and just solving the tickets or the problems that you get assigned. Okay, but as you do not get a whole picture. You do not get to see what exactly your product is going to do in the market and what revolution it is bringing. So I was up to this, and I was very rebellious, and my managers, they found out, okay, she want to get into something, and they experimented with me into product management. So that was a very, very huge change that I got in my first stint only. I have built a product from scratch. I saw a very good revenue of around 5 million within 6 months, almost in 6 months. So that was a very, very good experience from me. I did a very raw product management. So from there to here, there has been a very I would say an enormous change in how I work. But as everybody said, product management is all about how you solve user problem. That is it. Okay, once you solve a user problem, you are the best product manager ever. Okay, because that is where users are the one for whom you are building. Usually what happens in companies when you work, people tend to bring their hypothesis and build something which is somewhere not necessary also in the market. Sometimes it is not useful in the market. Okay, and there is when the company fails. The companies or the products which fail is because they didn't go with what user exactly wanted, but they just went after money. So this is one big learning that I have learned in my entire tenure, that it is about users and it is about building empathy. It is about how you deeply can solve for user. Okay, so that is product management for me. um yeah, and if you talk about the best product or the product that I like the most is I work for TikTok. I like TikTok a lot, and I like Instagram a lot. Why? Because as a product, it is very, very data oriented. I feel it empathizes with the user again. Okay, so if you are a user of Instagram, you will always feel that okay, it's my friend. Okay, whatever you are looking out for or whatever you are spending time on, it will give you more content around it. It's the way of their engagement. Okay, so I feel that is very, very interactive. Then second thing, people are now able to show their creative side on these kind of platforms like TikTok or Instagram. Okay, and it has brought a revolution. Okay, people earlier used to just go for one or two types, very limited amount of careers, limited number of careers. But at this point, with these kind of applications and with these kind of possibilities, people are exploring. They are actually moving into full-time content creation and making money and making good money out of it. So I believe that now the standards have changed. It's not always about you need to know something or you need to know acting or singing or stuff like that. These platforms have backed you very, very nicely. So I like this this thing about Instagram, and the way they operate, that is also very, very unique. So yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. So I'm sure you realize that I work for Meta, so I'll just be very neutral. So good about TikTok, Instagram. I'll just be neutral. So yeah, thanks for that. We'll move on to the second part. Was that I will have different questions for each and every one of you here, based on the product that you think was the best. For the audience out there, there's a link that's dropped by Daniel. So if you have a question, audience, you have a question, you can just put it into Slido. But I'll ask the first question to Tanel is that you're a pricing product manager. So Strava recently, or I think a few months ago, they changed from a freemium model to a monthly subscription base. Or I'm not sure if it was quite recent or like a few months down the road, but how do you feel about that? And do you think a $5 subscription monthly model works wonder for Strava? And I use Strava myself, I subscribe to it. I think it's a great product to use. But do you think that worked well for Strava?
Right. So honestly, I do not have the numbers on like how well their pricing model is working for them. But to be honest, like I really think it's a huge barrier for Strava, and I think the biggest problem that they need to solve at hand. Because I have been a Strava user for 3 years, but I think until very recently I did not pay for Strava, and I think the Strava as a product that existed. The limited amount of product that existed for me as a free user was pretty good for me, and I was enjoying it even with that much, right? And to move users to the paid version, I think what Strava needs is like stickiness and retention. Like they need more and more users to use the product for an extremely long time, and the users need to see value in their paid version, right? And I just don't feel that the paid version of Strava is compelling enough for me, or for someone like me which is their biggest user base, to move to the paid version, right? And so and becoming fit and becoming an athlete is not a 1 month or a 2 month thing. Like it takes years for you to become fit, and for that Strava needs to focus on retention. They need to help users stay on the product and convince them that if you want to be fit, if you want to focus on your fitness journey, you need this product, right? So I think that has been challenging, and I think the biggest problem that they have to solve right now is how do they move users from their free model to the paid model. And yeah, so subscription is a challenge, and I think it is a bit pricey for what they offer. I think the key thing that they offer is more metrics, more stats, and more logs on how you've been working out. But I think it has been a challenge for Strava, honestly, like you pointed out.
All right, thanks a lot. Yeah, you make a lot of sense. Yeah, and I think they made a smart move by making it to a subscription base from a freemium to a premium model, and I think it works wonder. I don't have the number, but I'm using it. My colleagues are still using it. My friends are still using it, so there shouldn't be any problem, right? So yeah, the next question is for Shufami. Was that AirPods, right? They are the hardware product, like, other than design changes and how light it is, like what can product managers do to improve, like for hardware? Like we might not have like the correct answers today, but what do you think as a person, for you, if you were a PM of AirPods today, what will you change?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question because, a very common question you get as a product manager when you're interviewing is, what's your best product, similar to how we're talking about it today, and how would you improve it? And it's, when you think about a product that, to me, it's almost nearly perfect, like how would you take it to the next level? And I think with hardware products, it's very different. But you also recognize that hardware doesn't work without software. So a big piece of the utility of the AirPods is, the gestures that you can use to either, move your track forward or move it backwards, or access Siri in your ear, which is like absolutely powerful. To a degree, I think there's things that you can program to do and gestures that you can use on your computer and access things all around you. I think like a couple of years ago, Siri shortcuts was like super, super huge. I'm not sure about the usage right now. The one thing that I would really add to enhance the experience is really having like programmable gestures that can really either provide me specific information from specific apps that I use, or handle out commands, or using gestures to like do things with other mobile apps that I use that I might find like super helpful. For example, when I go for a run, I usually just typically use my Apple Watch. I'm being able to just like use a gesture and say, this is where I'm going to start my run, because it's like routine to me. I think like it gives the product like a bigger superpower, because now you're using it for other things around you to solve the problem. Another hardware thing that I would include into it is like, sometimes whenever I'm on flights, it's the most painful thing to actually go back to using AirPods. It's so terrible because, number one, sometimes airlines don't give you the headphones. So I know there are other companies that sell like an external adapter, like a Bluetooth adapter that you can like add to it. I think like that would be like a great addition to it, because how previously in the Apple headphones, they will include like a headphone jack for people who still use high performance headphones in there. I think that would be like a great addition for folks who fly very frequently and they still want to like use their AirPods to enjoy the benefit of having high quality sound, the noise reduction or noise cancellation features. I think like those things would be like super helpful. But I do think there's like an opportunity there for Apple to maybe open up the development kit for being able to like use AirPods to like access gestures to do different things on different apps that would actually make it an amazing superpower. So that's sort of like what I would say. I don't think it's a perfect answer because it's a very different and complicated product. But those will be the things that I would do based off of my needs, and I think that might also benefit a bunch of like other people.
Yeah, that was well put together, because that wasn't like the easiest questions to answer, because like, you know, hardware to like improve it, to design it, like a lot of like engineering works to be precise, and it's a hard question, but we all learn, right? So that's what we are here for today. So the last question is for Yashi, is that you mentioned about, you know, to be a good product manager, like you need to understand your user, you need to have empathy, and just want to like go a little bit deeper into that. Was that what does it take for a product manager to make a good product, like other than user understanding your users, empathy, and like what do you think? I mean, like most of us PMs, we will definitely chime in later, but for you, what do you think it's important for a product manager to, what like traits or skill sets or like soft skills is required to make a good product? Yeah.
Sure. So, for a good product manager, it's important that he is very structured in his mind. Like, you know, usually what happens is that you'll have so many stakeholders that you'll work with, and they'll barge you with so many things, okay, all together. But it's about how you structure it well. So, as a product manager, prioritization is one thing that you have to be very, very keen on, and it's very important that how you prioritize stuff. And in order to build a product, so there are two kinds of products when you start to build. One is a blue ocean product and one is a red ocean product. Okay, it's very technical term, but I'll explain. So blue ocean is the one which is new in the market, and red ocean is the one wherein competitors exist. Okay, so to build both these set of products, there are different ideologies that you have to take up. Okay, for blue ocean products, you'll go with the strengths and the opportunities that your company has, okay, at this point of time. Like maybe the tech bandwidth, the money that you can burn in order to build this product, maybe the market size. Okay, these can be your opportunities. A red ocean product is very, very, I would say, there you need to study your competitor and the market very well. Okay, you need to study your audience very well in order to build a product wherein you can give a different value proposition. Value proposition is again what different you are doing with the existing product in the market. Okay, so that is very important. There comes your role as a product manager. Okay, otherwise anybody can copy and paste, but you as a product manager will create a value proposition. You'll create a value for your product, okay, which is going to be which is going to be used by same set of audience, but it will have different value. Okay, so this is something which a product manager should be very, very into. And again, soft skills, if we talk about soft skills, communication is very good. Communication is one thing which you have to be on top of, be it written, be it verbal communication. You have to communicate, you have to keep talking, because as a product manager, like everyone said, you have to work with different teams, tech, tech, design, marketing, sales, maybe everybody. So it's important that you talk sensible. And how you'll talk sensible is while learning and communicating well. So this is, I think, I think this answers your question, Kieran. Yeah.
Yep. Thank you so much. I think that was well put together. Yeah, I agree with you. Learn about blue ocean, red ocean. I think it's interesting. Like the ones that's always hardest is like to pilot like blue ocean products where you don't really know like your audience or your market fit. That's where like we have a lot of like iterations and MVPs. And red ocean is where we can try to like burn money through marketing and try to like win competitors. That's what like Instagram, TikTok, Snap used to compete in. That was interesting. So I'll just go back to, Tanel and Sefunmi chime in. Like, what do you think, like, aside from these points, like, what do you think makes what traits are needed for product managers to make like a really good product, like other than like being lucky?
Yeah, I think one thing that I really resonate with is being able to step into the shoes of the user, like not thinking like a product manager or someone who's building the product and being super close to the product. Like, I honestly feel that you as a product manager has to be very detached from the product. Like, you should not be emotional about what you're building, and you should not be in love with your product, right? Even though you are building it, it's your baby and things like that. But like, even though you're building a product, you have to step back, look from the lens of the users, put yourself into the shoes of the user, and then rethink like what you're building is making sense for them or not, right? I think, and being just the voice of the customer, right? And if you're building a product, you should not be building for anyone and everyone, right? You should be very focused in terms of what you're building and who you are building that for, right? Because if you try and build something which fits for everyone, it's probably not going to fulfill the needs of any particular user, right? So like extreme or like very high focus on who you are building the product for, and then stepping into that into the shoes of that user, being their voice, championing their pain points, championing their thoughts, and then bringing that insight into the team is probably what can make what can enable you to build really good products. And I think I have one article also written on it on my Medium, which is on how you have to continuously unlearn your product to be a really good product manager. After working for like 3 or 4 years or 5 years with a product, you just know so much about the product that sometimes you just fail to think from the perspective of a new user who is just coming onto the platform or your product, right? So it's a very difficult activity to take, and like it's a very difficult mindset to have, that how do you unlearn your product every day. But I think that is one of the key things that you have to do to be a really good product manager and build awesome products.
Yeah, that's a very, very outstanding answer today. I really resonate with all of that. And just to like build, I think his answer was like absolutely amazing. But just to build on top of that, I would say being very, very observant. It's not enough to speak to your customers or be empathetic, because sometimes you can do that and totally miss the point. But you need to observe what they do and how they do it, observe their pain points and observe how they solve the problems today. And I think those give you different clues. You know, there's this quote by Einstein that says, you know, if I have 1 hour to solve a problem, I'll spend the first 55 minutes trying to understand that problem. And I think that comes with, you know, several pieces of being very incredibly observant. Your attention to detail has to be like top notch, because what people say and what people do are extremely very different. And as a product manager, it's not your job to ask the user what the solution is. You know, there's this famous quote that says, you know, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. You know, and that quote is very misused, because a lot of product managers or a lot of, you know, entrepreneurs use that as an excuse to say, you know, I think I know best for the customer. But if you listen to that customer, they'll tell you what their problem is, and that problem is faster. It's not necessarily horses. It's like they want to go somewhere faster. They don't care about what the solution that they use. Another famous quote by Bezos is like, things people want to do don't change, but how they do changes very frequently. And I think that resonates with me, because it's like, if you focus too much on the solution and what people are doing today, you get to lose your customers, and you don't observe them that, you know, if they're using wired headphones, it's actually limiting their movement. You know, if they're trying to hop on a call, they have to like sit next to the adapter because they're charging their phone, because that's where the plug is. You know, that is actually not improving human behavior, versus you can really observe that, you know, this person wants to lie on this side of the bed, but they can't because they're charging their phone and they have to use their headphones that way. So if you're very observant as like what users do, their problems are right there, and they might not even tell you explicitly, but it takes someone very creative to really put themselves in the user's shoes, try to observe them in ways that are reasonable, and try to then come up with very creative solutions, because it's your job as the product manager to come up with the solutions. But it's also important to really understand the problems, and understanding problems takes like a long time sometimes. But if you really do the work, and when you come up with like a creative solution, it's going to be very magical when, you know, the users look at it for the first time and they're like, wow, this is exactly what I needed. So I'd say, just to add on top of, you know, what folks have already said, you know, being super observant, you know, focusing on the problem and not really being too tired with the solution. And I'll say, like, if you do those things, then I think that's the recipe for a great product manager.
Right. And I think just one more thing to add to Sefunmi, I think that was very well put, like being observant and how, and the examples that you gave were like amazing. But I think one more thing that I would like to add on top of that is like product managers are often said that they are visionaries, they define the vision for the product, they define the strategy for the product, right? But like product managers are dreamers, right? They dream about the best stuff that they can build. But then eventually what it all comes down to is like amazing execution, right? If you with your team cannot execute on those ideas, grand plans and vision, then your product is not going to succeed, or your company is going to fail, right? So I think uh, execution after all of that initial work is done is super important, because I feel that is where most of the companies and products fail eventually, or the companies that do not make it is because they were not able to execute on their vision.
Yeah, that's interesting. I just like to add on something like regarding like observing like your user. Like in my workplace, what we have is that we have a session with different type of like chairs. It can be like different heights, low sitting chairs. So we have a bunch of like funny looking chairs. Sorry, I don't have an image because I'm not in the office. But what happens is that every 2-3 months, our people's team will actually ask employees to, do a test on like, can you work here for a few hours? How is your productivity? Can you try a different seat of height? So like based on these, like kind of like the way your ergonomics of like chairs and table works, right? They try to derive to the like kind of like the perfect setup for you to work so that you are more productive at work. So this is something that, like teams in my people team are actually trying to see how to like improve the productivity. So in a way, they're like observing people. So I think that's a really good point, like with regards to product. So like we have about 4 minutes. So one last question across all, like for our panel before the audience can ask us question for Q&A is that we are on the ADPList panel, right? And we are using ADPL. So what advice or improvement do you think ADPList can do to improve its product? Currently, they are matching mentors for designer, right? They are trying to expand into product management by having this product management week. But other than this, what type of like, if you have been mentoring, if you have been speaking to people, what do you think is the improvement that ADPList can do to improve, to make it like one of the better product? And anyone can go, yeah.
Need to think.
Again, it's not one of the easiest questions, and we have a bunch of ADPList volunteers and people that work there looking at us with their eyes. So let's do our best to answer them. Yeah.
I have a suggestion, but again, I'm a bit biased because I do things differently, and I run a company that is essentially trying to solve this problem. But I'm a firm believer is like in doing. So I do think a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to learn in a silo and try to just like speak to people and learn from there. I think there's a lot of learnings that you can have by lots of conversation, but the faster you can get to building and doing, I think like building and shipping a product and failing, there's so much learning there than like reading for like many months on like how to build the best product. You need to go out and do it. So I would say like, mentorship is like super important to gain some of that confidence. But I do think that there is a point when mentorship can no longer help, because the mentor isn't going to do the work for you, isn't going to allow you gain all the skills by just having conversations. So the faster that you can get towards actionable tips. So if the mentor is able to say that, okay, based off of this conversation I'm having with this mentee, I think they need to do these 3 things, and creating like an action plan for them, whether that's like resources or courses or apprenticeships or training programs that they need to do. I think that is helpful because that moves them towards their next best step to success. Because you don't want people remaining in this. So I've seen folks do this, and like, they go through the same mentor for like a year before they get to their goal, versus like if they take some of the tips, actually go on action on it, they may be in a better position. So I would say like leading towards action would be ideal. I know it's a bit high level, but I didn't want to be very too prescriptive, but I'll say like that is a problem and that is a potential solution on how to go about doing that.
Right, and just building on top of Sefumi's idea, I think I was thinking in very similar direction. I think it's so I haven't used the platform a whole lot. I've done a few mentorship sessions, so I'm not super familiar. But like in terms of, so based on my understanding, I think that the mentorship sessions that you have are like one-off mentorship sessions, right? That they're transactional. And what Sefumi said, like I think that there has to be a way for a continuous and long-term membership for people, like inbuilt into the product, where a mentee can be matched with a mentor for a long term, and they track progress over a period of time. And then mentor who has been in the industry for a while can vouch for the skills of the candidate over a period of time, and tell them that my mentee has done X, Y, and Z based on the actions plan that probably get created based on Sefumi's suggestion. And then they can vouch for their skills, which help them get hired, which probably is the eventual goal of a lot of mentees that are there on the platform, right? How do we land jobs? How do we break into a certain type of role? So if your ADPList profile can sort of become your resume of what you have done and what you're good at, and I think that will just really help people achieve the final outcome of like probably landing their dream job at a certain place.
Yeah, so like based on the answers, right, we actually noticed that there are like two sides of the user we're looking at. One is a mentee, one is a mentor. So I'll go with the mentor first. So I love the platform. So one thing that I always have trouble is that I know like what kind of like sets of people comes to me. So it's either people that wants to transition to PM, a newly PM, or those people that are like having career advice or like problem with product. So like I have a set of documents on Google Doc that I'll like curate and I'll send it to the mentees after the session. So what will be good is like action plans that, you know, like mentors can add documents to it, share the resources to it. And after the call, I just like say, hey, here's a list of action plans you need to do. We can take off, we can arrange for a session. So like all these will be, it's good to have, but like being a product, I'm just one of the mentors. There are like thousands, right? So you still need to figure out what is missing, what is needed to do. So you don't have to be biased, but this is one of the feedback. For mentees, I agree with you. Having like a kind of like the vouching testimonials or like skills that he or she improved, and also like a page where, you know, it's like a e-certificate, like, you know, like this is like accredited by ADPList. He's good in this, like then ADPList, the branding go up. I mean, I'm thinking a lot for both. And in terms of monetization, I mean, it's hard for me to answer how you want to make money off this platform. So it's tricky, but I probably will skip to the question, and I'll pass it to Yashi to, you know, have any final says on this.
So I have been associated with ADPList from past, I would say 1.5 years. And whatever you all stated, that is the major issue with the mentees with you know, I have faced. People connect and they have a very big problem, and they are in it feels that they are in, you know, huge trouble, that they want to land in a job or they want to transition into product management or something like that. But when I talk to them, I send them the action plans and whatever, you know, they should do, and connect with me second time. That usually what happens is people face a lot of problem in booking sessions, or, you know, taking up follow-up meetings with me. Okay, it's like there is no plan, or there is no timeline defined. It's like all verbal, which happens over a call. So it's like, okay, I've asked you, connect with me next week. Okay, that's it. If he wants, he will, or else he'll connect with me after 1 month. So there, this process breaks actually. The timeline breaks, and you do not get a chance to actually solve, wherein you will, you know, as a mentor, you would be able to help him in 1 month maybe. That is not happening because you are unable to connect with him properly. Similar with the mentee, he is not able to get out of you properly, because he is not able to, maybe because he wanted to book a session with you and your calendar was blocked throughout. So there has to be a seamless connection between a mentor and a mentee, so that fulfillment of the requirement can be done from a mentee's end especially. So yeah, That is one thing.
Yeah, thanks everyone on the panel list, and like to ADP, every feedback is a gift, and I would like to take the time to pass it back to Helen to run through some of the Q&A we might have on Slido. Thanks everyone.
Yeah, thank you everyone. I will share my screen so we can take some questions. Before I do that, just wanted to make sure everyone, just a note maybe. We just launched a bit ago, I think not even a month ago, we launched a few new features called connections. And some of the things that were mentioned here, even actionable steps, mentoring recurring sessions, we have some of the initiatives there. So maybe I would like to know more from you if that's that, or if it needs any improvement. As you said, like feedbacks are always a gift and we take them very seriously. So thank you so much for all of this. I already let the product team know to see the recording. Beautiful, let's go to the questions. Masiesh, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, asked a question for Mr. Osinaike. Sorry, I forgot, Sefunmi, how to say your last name. I hope that's okay. What made you leave your PM position at Apple, Microsoft, and pursue entrepreneurship?
This is a very interesting question. So after Microsoft and Apple, I worked at a startup first for a couple of years before going on starting my own company. I think the reason why anyone decides to pursue, or the reason why I think most people decide to pursue entrepreneurship is because they really want to solve a particular problem. I think the way mine came up was, while working as a product manager, which again, Tene also mentioned, it's very difficult landing product management jobs. Like it's very challenging, especially if you're a new grad or you don't have any experience, especially back then, it was like so difficult to do so. And so when I was able to get into product management, lots of people reached out to me and kept asking me the same thing. How do I become a product manager? This was like pre-ADPList. So it's just like random coffee chats that I would have like every week. And while doing that, I kept on telling them the same thing, giving them a bunch of advice. And that's what led me to actually write a book, which is up here, How to Product, which I launched 2 years ago in 2020, on 25 different stories on how people from non-traditional backgrounds broke into product management for the first time. So people who were photographers, studied cinema studies, customer support, who made their way into product management. So I wrote that. And of course, I know writing a book wouldn't get people, I wouldn't solve the problem. Although some people were inspired with strategies and ended up landing the role, I really wanted to take it a step further and say, how do we get more people into product management? So I started thinking about that problem a lot deeper. And then that's when I was like, I think I have a solution that can help solve this problem. And I was very confident about that. And that's when I started making the process to go ahead and, decide to quit my full-time job, work on COLAB. And so far, we've helped over 400 people transition to the tech industry. And yeah, I'm super excited about what we're doing. It's still in the early days, but super excited to giving people real world experience by building products and getting the experience that they need to succeed. So that is sort of why. That's the short answer. There's obviously a longer version, but I don't think we have the time for that.
Did anyone want to add anything? Or I think this one was pretty straightforward, right? So next, Stephanie, as a product evolves and new features are added based on users' asks, what are your thoughts on how to avoid feature overload for users? Who would like to take that first?
I can go, and anyone can chime in later. Maybe Yashi can chime in later. So I'll just go. Just a quick one was that it's similar to the second question, like biggest measure when it comes to prioritization. So normally what we do is that we collect feedbacks from users. We try to see what they want. And also we try to think of product as what are we trying to achieve. Are we trying to grow more user base? If that is the part of the product roadmap at that time of period, we're trying to focus according to our business need. We'll increase user. If it's to like, we want more daily active users, or do we want to retain users? So like we'll add like loyalty or CRM, or is it to monetize? So like based on products needs, that is how we try to prioritize. Not every we can ask like 1,000 audience users, like what do they want? What they want might not be what we want to give them or what we want to achieve as a business. So in the end, it's always really important to prioritize according to what you are trying to achieve as a product at the point of time, and not always. It's good to get the feedback. These features can be put into like a KIV, keep in view kind of list on what we can do, but based on that time, you have to decide. As a PM, it's always very hard to reject, like feedbacks or like suggestions, but we are also human and we have to align ourselves with what the business goals are. And often at times, CEO, managers, your management, your leads might not see it, but you own the product and you know exactly where it's going. And based on that, and these feedbacks are good. We use data to drive innovation, to drive decisions, and we normally use that to increase the business goal. So that's how I have been prioritizing my products features. Yashi, sorry to keep you just now, but please add on to it. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, like you said, it's always about the business objective. It's more of the business objective. And plus one more thing, you can't solve for every user. You have to go with the largest segment. Okay. It's always about the segment and the problem that you're solving and what is the business objective. So you have to align all these three and solve accordingly. And hence you'll prioritize also. So this is the way of prioritization versus and solving as well. You have to go with the segment. Like for example, you have 100 users and 60 users have one problem, and 40 users, among 40 users there are variety of problems. So you can deprioritize those and take it or do testing on those features maybe, and then launch it full-fledged. So there are many ways to go about it, but yeah, it is always about how your business will grow or what will be your major solve for the segment that you are targeting. So yeah. Thank you.
Okay, did anyone have anything else to add? Okay, thank you very much. Now Brian asks, quote from Steve Jobs, a lot times people don't know what they want until you show it to them. As a designer, PM, how we can understand this quote?
I think I can take that one. I think goes back to like two major differences, I think, in what Sefunmi said, like observing the users, right? So there are two types of product managers, like one, the first type, and this probably happens earlier in your career and you learn this with your experience, but what happens is you often, if you're talking to the customers or doing customer discovery, you're often like, okay, what do you want? Or like, what should we build in the product, right? And if you're doing something like that, directly asking for solutions, you're going to end up building wrong things or just achieving the status quo of what your users want. If you want to delight your users, if you want to go a step ahead, if you want to lead them to a product and show them that this is what they really want, you need to really have a problem first, solution second mindset. Just focus on the problems of the users, just observe their day-to-day and what they are doing today. If there is a problem, how are they bypassing that problem, or what solutions they have created on their own to bypass a certain type of problem. And just final thing, which I said when I was talking, was unlearning your product, right? So if you can unlearn your product in a way that you step into the shoes of the user and do not have any pre-existing knowledge about the product you have built, I think you will be able to live up to this quote really, really well.
Yeah, that's a perfect response to that question. Honestly, nothing else to add. So awesome answer today.
Okay. Thank you. Now let's go to the last question of the day because we're running out of time. Daniel asks, how do you go from what people want to what people need? Who would like to take that?
I think this goes back to the same thought which we just talked about, and I think this is very similar to what we just talked about in the previous question. So I don't think there's a lot to add here, but like anyone from the panel would like to add anything.
Yeah, I think I wanted to even clarify, like, what do you mean? Like, how do you go from what people want to what people need? Is it like, are you trying to understand what is the difference between building products for what people want to what people need? So I just need some clarification, but otherwise, I think like, yeah, the previous response makes sense to understand, you know, what is a want versus what is a need. And if you pay attention to your users closely, you get to understand how severe the problem is that you're trying to solve.
Yeah, I agree. I would just interpret it according to the previous question where we were trying to like figure out like what do people want in the future versus what we like ship out. So it would be similar to that, and the answer will always be, for me, it's based on data. We use data to like analyze and to produce anything. Yeah.